2009 Kia Borrego. The right car at the wrong time. This is the rarest mass production family car in the United States. I said mass production car, not car. Yes, the Lexus LFA is rarer than this, but that was sold as a loss for the love of the game. Yes, there was the E30 Gambella, but that was a boutique modifier. And yes, there were Yanko Chevrolets, but those were boomer wet dreams in which all of their imaginary children line up boy, girl, and say, "I'm sorry, you were right. You were always right. Please forgive me." The Kia Borrego was a sincere effort by Hyundai Kia to sell a full-size SUV to the American market 10 years too early. The Western world's economy tanked in 2008. No one was hiring, and families who were buying new cars were trading in their dot-com-era sport utility vehicles for sedans, hatchbacks, and smaller SUVs. Remember the rise of the third-gen Forester? They were everywhere. 10 years later, by 2019, American consumers were ready for full-size expensive SUVs again. Remember when the Kia Telluride came out? Total feature-laden claw game of a vehicle, and bougie wives and himbo husbands in those Arctic parkas that had the little picture of Antarctica on the side, like a patch on the shoulder. I don't know. They took proctology level financing deals for those depreciation one-upper mobiles. But back in 2009, the elusive middle class were cutting back on spending, and this body-on-frame heavy three-row SUV walked out on stage at Punchline Philly with an act full of Joey Buttafuoco jokes and a 12-minute closer on feminism, which ended with,
"So I punched her right in the box and told her to clean out your desk."
This episode of Regular Car Reviews is sponsored by Factor, and I have to level with you. In the past year, I have gained 10 pounds by doing just sitting around at my computer. So I legitimately have to learn portion control, and thank goodness that Factor is here. You think I'm joking about this? I'm not. I saw myself in a live stream the other day, and I'm like looking at my stomach, and I'm like, ugh. And I know what's doing it. What's doing it is me eating peanut butter out of a jar. I have peanut butter and jelly and a spoon, and it just goes in between. I'm not making that up. Chocolate chip muffins. But thanks to Factor, I'm going to have portion-controlled meals that are delicious, ready in 2 minutes, and they're going to be satisfying. So head to factor75.com or click on the link below and use my code, REGULARFB50. That gets you 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for a year. My code is, that's good. My code is REGULARFB50, REGULARFB50 at factor75.com. And I'll confess, like in the previous ad reads I did for Factor, I was layering all this stuff on a bed of rice, and that was partially my fault because I'm like, I need more carbs. So I was eating too many carbs and then just sitting for the rest of the day. Yeah, I did go to the gym, but what's the saying? You can't work off a bad diet, but that's no problem because Factor has keto-friendly meals, it has vegetarian options, it has protein plus. So for someone like me who does go to the gym and does lift weights, I'm going to be focusing on their keto meals and the protein plus. So thank you so much, Factor, for sticking with Regular Car Reviews all these years. And now, back to whatever Nick's doing.
2009 Kia Borrego. The official car of buying a BlackBerry right after the iPhone released. Kia Borrego. Bought to you by Mark-Face grandmothers who bought the bargain bin DVDs called Locating Clownfish Dad, Kung Fu Porcupine, Lord of the Wedding Bands, and Kid Wizard Adventure. Kia Borrego. The official car of grandparents in the 2000s whose living room coffee table was overflowing with remote controls.
I have so many remotes. I never know what to do. This one turns on the TV, but this one changes the cable channel. And this one turns on the volume up and down. And this one is for the VCR, but this one's for the DVD VCR, and oh heavens, I don't even know what this one does.
2009 Kia Borrego. Now that's what I call 2000s. The first and last year of a decade are all you need to summarize the vibes and get an idea of what changed and why. Between the first and the last one, the cultural vibe of a decade can be reinforced or rejected entirely. So stay with me now. Let's go back 49 years from the release of this Borrego. Youth culture became more pronounced in 1960 and blossomed in 1969 through free love, birth control, LSD, rock and roll, and hippies with more yeast than a French bakery. 1970 was the birth of a larger political distrust that culminated in 1979 with the cynicism and exhaustion compelled by a war that went on too long, an oil crisis that happened twice, and a disillusionment with the people who were entrusted to lead us. The year 1980 transitioned from glitter pop culture to something glossier, more populist, movies with bigger guns and women with bigger naturals, while 1989 was the apex of success. The year 1990 was the beginning of the World Wide Web, and 1999 gave us the dot-com boom and the fear of Y2K. The year 2000 was powered by an economy whose bubble had yet to burst, and when it did, by 2009, well, that was identified by an economy in recovery, and the fallout hit the automotive industry, as it always does. In the sun-drenched mountain range of consumer confidence that the year 2000 represented, the Kia Borrego would have looked like a zero-suit Samus to a touch-starved prison inmate. But this was released in the whirlpool of economic victimhood that came at the end of the 2000s. No matter how good the Kia Borrego was, there was no breaking the hermetically sealed despair that kept people in tedious crossovers, lifeless sedans, and other bland vehicles for people whose kink is wasting everybody's time. In the godless hedon thrust of the early social networking days, where automotive enthusiasm was every bit as much of a performance as the act of starting a family, Kia Borrego was getting less traction than a tweet about male loneliness. This was the perfect car for the worst possible time. But man, did it ever try to fit in. The former chief designer at Audi, Peter Schreier, designed this. And it reads with the same architectural geometry of a luxury SUV that didn't have the budget to actually be one. It's such an NPC-looking car. The Borrego debuted in Korea as the Kia Mojave, before making its way to the US, where production only lasted 1 year. And while that single year of production gave us 2 model years, that was debatably more than it should have gotten. If you judge the Borrego by how it was received, people wouldn't have been as upset about the fuel economy in the low 20s if it hadn't been released in the summer of 2008, when gas was hitting above $4 a gallon. People might have actually liked that it was a truck masquerading as an SUV if the market hadn't shifted toward SUVs that drove like cars. This doesn't drive like a car. This is very much a truck. Fewer than 23,000 Borregos made it here, and only a handful are on the road today. How could they be? The Borrego wasn't designed to fail, but it arrived at a time where it could do nothing else. Even if the Borrego was released only 4 years earlier, when a re-elected Bush surely would win the Iraq War this time around, people would have bought it. But today, in 2026, the Borrego is left to the fiscally savvy minds of people with limited options and no impulse to exceed them, because this makes as much sense as any 2009 vehicle, a year and a general time period that didn't produce a whole lot of shining examples of stout engineering, which is why the few generally good 2009 cars are worth their weight in, well, maybe not gold, but some other soft metal. Gallium, maybe. A nice room temperature melt. Kia Borrego. This was soft maxing before soft maxing existed. How about the engine? Well, it's a 3.8 liter V6, which was offered alongside a 4.6 liter V8. Now, this V6 makes 276 horsepower and 267 pound-feet of torque with a 5-speed automatic and a shiftronic, whatever. It's manual mode. I can pretend my car has a manual transmission. I can also pretend my wife's clit is the size of a Tapatio bottle and the same color and has a picture of a man with a big hat on it. She penetrates my enthusiastic bunghole on Mondays. With the hunger of Brian Dennehy approaching a free continental breakfast because she fists me on Tuesdays. And despite how perpetually ready this looks, it isn't really made for off-road conditions. It has an independent rear suspension and not a full axle. Jeep guys will say nothing but solid axles will do. But this is less of a rock crawler and more of a relative of those adventure-adjacent cars that were all over the road, but didn't look like they belonged in any place more rugged than a Walmart loading dock. The power steering feels boosted in higher speeds as it feels in lower speeds, and the even power band isn't very dramatic. From what it's worth, the engine is younger than the chassis. On this particular model, there's a 166,190 miles on the body, but the engine was replaced about 10,000 miles ago with like a junkyard version of a 3.8 liter V6 that had 98,000 miles. Why did someone replace the engine on this? Well, the owner found this car really freaking cheap, and even with buying a new engine and paying to have it put in, it still cost less than anything else. Because Kia did the best they could to make something versatile enough to appeal to everybody across income levels and family ambitions, but what they ultimately ended up making was a Range Rover without all the cluster B personality disorders. It doesn't even exclude the narcissism of a Karen who drives off without returning her shopping cart and then posts AI-filtered pictures of herself to feed on the plankton of superficial engagement without any irony whatsoever. Nor does the Kia Borrego give off the antisocial vibes of a man who's fashionably late to a steakhouse reservation for one. This is the least exciting rare car you'll ever come across. And it's refreshing for that reason alone. It's so generic as to seem almost fictional. When I was driving this, I thought, this must be what it feels like to have a stroke. Everything in here is familiar, but something's off. It looks like every other SUV, but something's a little bit, huh? The Kia Borrego lives in the uncanny valley of generational wish fulfillment. Every decade begins and ends with caution, cautious anxiety, cautious optimism, trust, calculated curiosity, skepticism, withdrawal. And cars are shaped around those cultural moments. Some get to live on because their utility aligned with the cultural moment, but that wasn't the case for the Kia Borrego, who missed the last helicopter out of the figurative Vietnam that was the post-financial crisis of the automotive industry. So should you buy one of these things? I mean, no. Where are you going to get parts? I mean, I guess it's shared with other Kias of the era, but this car is going to fall between the cracks of history. This is going to be like a Mercury Zephyr or a Plymouth Breeze. It's not weird enough to be like a Pontiac Aztek or a PT Cruiser, something that'll be remembered because it was a pattern interrupt. This has no pattern. It doesn't stand out in any way. It's like a Magic Eye puzzle that doesn't work. It's like the memory of a memory, like a passing ship. The memory of this is a wake that slowly fades into the ocean.